Can we talk about Johto's weapon obsession? Like, we got Pokemon based off of tanks, warships, bombs, revolvers. What, was there a war or something? Oh. Hello and welcome. I'm CoolPikachu, and today we are continuing our challenge to create Pokemon regional variants for the whole Johto Pokedex. Today we are designing REMORAID variants, and we'll not just be doing one, nope, we are doing 4. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, REMORAID provided an interesting challenge for me. This Pokemon is clearly based off of a fish, and more specifically the Remora, which is a fish that clings to manta rays. Sound familiar? It also takes inspiration from firearms and revolvers. In fact, even its Pokedex entry mentions it being the sniper of the sea. Also, can we take a moment to look at the early design of REMORAID? It literally looks like a squirt gun. The modern version is definitely more subtle, but the arrangement of its fins, the shape of its body, all play into the resemblance of firearm. So, I could either base these different variations off of different types of fish, which, boring, or I could change the type of weapon REMORAID is based off of. Much more interesting. But it can get really weird if I'm not too careful. Remember, the challenge is still to make these variations look like a Pokemon and look like the Pokemon I'm designing it off of. Not only that, but REMORAID's revolver traits are subtle. It still needs to look like a fish, so I had to keep that in mind while designing these variations. Let's see how I do. The first weapon that immediately came to my mind was the sword, because I mean like guns, swords, you know. So somehow I had to remove what made REMORAID look like a firearm and replace it with things that looked like a sword. I immediately brainstormed ways to change the body. Perhaps take inspiration from a swordfish and use traits from that. I played around a bit and decided to ditch the idea. The whole point of REMORAID is that its whole body resembles the weapon, so I decided to elongate the body and make it resemble the blade of a sword. I placed the fins to create a hilt-looking shape and then finished off the tail to look like the butt end of the sword. I removed the pelvic fin entirely, but kept the pectoral fin. The pelvic fin on normal REMORAIDs served to look like a trigger, but it wouldn't make sense here on a REMORAID looking like a sword. As for the colors, I went with one of REMORAID's older color palettes. Like Cyndaquil, REMORAID has had many color changes over the years, and I kind of played around with that with my variations. And here it is, Sword REMORAID. Where would these variations live? Will they all live in Johto? Will they be in different regions? Comment down below. Alright, so we got guns, we got swords, what else could we do? How about a bow? This one proved to be quite a unique challenge. How could I get REMORAID's body to look like a bow and keep it looking like a fish? I immediately thought of the sunfish and kept that in the back of my mind while designing this variation. I decided to give it long fins near its head to resemble the arc of a bow, while REMORAID's body could take after the arrow. I changed its face to look more like an arrowhead and messed with the tail until I got something that sort of resembled feathers. Also, can we talk about one of its Pokedex entries though? Cause I don't buy the fact that its dorsal fin, the thing on the top of its head, suctions to the underside of a mantine. Like, could someone please explain this to me? I feel like it would either latch or poke the Pokemon. But like suction, I don't think so. Anyways, for the colors, I chose a more green coloration. And there you have it, Bow REMORAID. Guns, swords, bows, what other weapon could I do? Spear is too similar to sword, and a cannon is too similar to a revolver. Time to grab a weapon that looks vastly different from these three. I decided to base this REMORAID off of the Japanese war fan, which by the way is made out of steel. I gave this variation a small body because I wanted the focus to be the fan, and I knew I wanted to use the fins to create the fan shape. So this one basically just gets a REMORAID head. While designing the tail fin, I considered making it jagged like an actual war fan, but REMORAID doesn't really have jagged fins, so I decided to make them wavy, similar to its original design. For the colors, I used the same palette from its gold and silver sprite, which is vastly different from its canon coloration, but I thought it would fit very well with this REMORAID. And here it is, Fan REMORAID. I know we still got one more, but which one is your favorite? Let me down in the comments down below. Last one, what could we possibly do next? Again, I had to go into the depths of Google and find more weapons that did not look like the last 4. I eventually settled on the whip, which sounds odd, but let me tell you a little secret. Like my Swina variations, while designing REMORAID, I kept its evolution octillery in mind. Yes, each of these REMORAIDs will have a matching evolution. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out next week when I'll be designing those. So I had a solid idea for my last auxiliary variation, and I kind of worked backwards from there, and the whip made the most sense. I made the body more like the handle of the whip and positioned the pattern on its back to resemble the leather wrappings of a whip. Then I gave it a very long tail. I considered giving it a tail that branched off into two, but I decided against it. I also played around with the tip of the tail and settled on a design that looked like Remoraid's pelvic fin. Speaking of which, I removed all its fins below it, which, yeah, might serve a problem biologically, but you know what? When has Pokemon ever had realistic anatomy ever? It didn't serve the design, but I still thought something was missing, so I made the pectoral fin larger to compensate. And there you have it, with Remoraid. Overall, I'm proud of how these turned out. It proved to be a very unique challenge, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. Next week is Auxiliary, which, oh boy, more weapons! So stay tuned for that. Anyways, have a wonderful day, and I will catch you all later.